Three, and we're live. Hey everybody, thanks for coming
Yay!
out. The last day of the Black SFFathon, and we're here to
Woo!
discuss The Forgotten Girl by India Hill Brown. Which is our group read. If you don't know, I'm Chloe Thistlin Burst. I'm one of the hosts of the readathon, the creator, and yes, I'm very disheveled because I've been running around. So that's up with me. Would everyone like to introduce themselves really quick for people who might not be familiar with the channels? These are all my wonderful co-hosts. They've been helping out with Black SFFathon behind the scenes. They've been promoting. They've been helping with the posts and coming up with ideas for what we wanted it to look like this year. And the event would not happen without them. So
Um, I'm Lucy. My channel name is Lucy Reads. I read books and then I talk about them, as we all do, because this is book 2. Okay, next.
I'm a Jerry from Onyx Pages, and the rest was said by Lucy. Hello.
Hi, I'm Marlene from Lock Press Books on Instagram. I don't do booktube, but definitely hit me up on Instagram.
Hello, everybody. I'm Noria from Chronicles of Noria. And just like Lucy and Jerry said, I'm on BookTube. So, hi. And I talk about books on BookTube. I'm a mess. I'm sorry. I'm happy. I love this book. So, okay.
Oh, okay. Well, this is going to be a good discussion then. Enough questions. So, do we want to do a quick, for people who don't know, we're going to be talking about like plot points and stuff, so spoilers ahead. If that's not what you want, then you should probably head out and rewatch it a later time when you've read the book. But we want to do a quick summary of the book to refresh people's memories for people who haven't read it for a little bit, just so we're all on the same page. I can start it off, and then if people want to throw stuff in, they can. So this is a middle grade ghost story about this young girl, Iris, who lives in, I believe it was North Carolina, right? It was in one of the Carolinas, I thought.
Yes.
And
Esau.
she's in middle school, and she has this younger sister, and she just kind of has typical middle school problems. Like she's kind of jealous of the younger sister because she feels like she's getting all this attention from her parents. She is like an innovator at her school. She's like the leader of the step team, but she keeps getting left out of like the school publicity around it. Like people will leave her out of announcements. She's not getting featured in the newspaper, and she feels like pretty excluded. And she has a friend, Daniel, and they hang out a lot. And one night, it's like the first snowfall, and they're really excited, so they sneak out in the snow. And they're in the back of their little like neighborhood, and they stumble upon a tombstone, and they realize that in their development there has been a graveyard. And they do some digging, and they realize that it was a part of a segregated graveyard, and that they had found the tombstone in particular of someone who's actually very like important and influential in the community. Like they find out that like this had been like a family friend of theirs. She had been like one of the first students to integrate the middle school that the Iris and Daniel go to, and they're having like these weird encounters and communications with the ghost. And Iris kind of wants to do like Iris has like a history project coming up, and as part of that project she wants to like talk about this graveyard and like maybe get some of the students to do like a cleanup or do something to commemorate this event that's like very important to the community but hasn't really been talked about. And there's like pushback from students and some of the admin, but like her mom really like encourages her family's like very much like behind her and supporting her, and she decides to go ahead with it. And that's how she finds out more about the ghost. And the ghost is kind of likes the attention, but is also kind of grown malevolent over the years. And so she's talking to like Iris's little sister, and she's trying to like lure them out into the snow to stay with her forever. And they have to have like this big reconciliation with like finding the friend of the ghost when she was a kid to come out and talk to her about, I guess like letting go and moving on. And Iris does the presentation. She pitches like the cleanup and like the commemoration to like the students, and there are some people who are like in their feelings about it, but like eventually she is able to get like a wider like reckoning and to like start talking more about this like young girl who's so important to the community and like the history of the place where she lives. Is there anything that I left out?
I think you got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
very
I
non-spoilery,
think
but
you
just a good
basically actually
overview.
covered everything.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
So, what did you think of the protagonist, Iris, and like her family stuff?
Oh, it seemed pretty typical with the younger sister getting all the attention, where Iris used to be like the main focus of the parents, but now that she has to share her parents' attention with her younger sister Vashti. So it's just that part seemed kind of typical. To me, having younger sisters, I know having to split time with parents. I get that.
Yeah, I really related to Iris when she was like, I have to take her everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
I
Like,
don't my time with her. What is this? What about me? What about
right.
Iris?
What about Iris? What about me? I have goals. I have things that I want to do too, but I guess Vashti can borrow my bonnet. Like, she felt so hurt about that bonnet.
It was the bonnet and like the nighttime reading that she was getting cut out of, I thought.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
everything that was supposed to be her and her mother's like bonding time. Vashti was like, no, it's my time. So sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It kind of felt
And I
pretty
think
like
it's
typical.
especially hard for her because it's been. Oh, sorry. Please continue, Lucy. I'll go after you.
So it's okay. Yeah, I was just agreeing. Like it felt like a pretty typical kind of family dynamic, like older sister, like feeling like she is being not replaced, but the younger person like needs attention because they're like physically because they're younger. But when you're used to having all the attention, it feels like, oh, like I don't have any now. You can go
Yeah,
ahead,
and
Maria.
I think it was even stronger for her, because when you look at the age difference, right? Iris is
Yeah.
11, Vashti is 4. She had 7 years. The first 7 years was just her and her parents, and it's just like I think it was a very sudden shift for her. And I'm not a parent, so I cannot assume to say, oh, a parent should have done this better with regards exactly how they split time with kids when you realize that they are own individual persons and you need to find a way to attend to each of your kids in a way that they will find fulfilling. But I do think that age difference probably not probably also contributed to it. And please take it with a grain of salt because I'm an only child. I never experienced any younger sibling coming after me. It was 100%. But I felt her pain because I can just imagine my mom giving me a sibling when I was 15, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what? She's saying, bring
Right.
her everywhere. You can't watch scary movies at night anymore because your kid's sister is scared. I'll be like, I'm sorry. So why is she awake? Why is she intruding on my movie time? I felt it. I understood Iris. I was just like, girl, I feel you.
Yeah.
I couldn't relate. I'm an only child, and I remember I read the book a while ago, and I remember like vaguely kind of understanding what this could have been like, but not really concerned. But I do think that like the whole idea of her being forgotten in like every area of her life created an interesting like bridge, right? Allowed her to be
Mm-hmm.
a target. And so I understand as a
Yeah.
device why that was like important, but I've just never had the experience.
I mean, technically I had the opposite.
Or are you the younger one?
Yeah, I'm the youngest by like a lot, so it's still like a different dynamic because like my sisters were teenagers or one was an adult when I was born. So like and I have two older sisters, so they already had their own dynamic and like one was older, one was younger, so they already were used to not being only children in the first place. So I mean, because my sisters are so old, like I was closer to being an only child than having siblings, but I don't know. I can imagine. Well, I can imagine because like I see my sister's dynamic, and I can definitely see like a Vashti and how did I just forget the main character's name?
Iris.
Iris. I can definitely see a Vashti and Iris dynamic in them. And like, I don't know. Lots of people talk about being older siblings on
Iris?
Twitter and stuff. So yes. So I feel like I see it.
Yeah, I had like an age gap where it's a lot smaller. So like from my living memory, I only ever remember having siblings. But I have like old home videos of me when it was like fresh that I had a sibling, and you could tell that I was in my feelings about it.
Yeah.
Night
I feel
Owl
like
Reader
most people
said, sorry, I honestly thought why is Iris had to turn off the show just because her sister was scared. Her sister could
Thank
simply
you.
go to bed while her sister watches the
Thank
show.
you.
I
I did
I
agree
said the
with
same
that.
thing. Yeah.
Like,
That's kind of what happened with us. Or it was just like, don't tell the parents we're watching this.
Yeah.
Right.
and I'm like, I don't understand.
Apparently, I watched Carrie when I was 3 because they were watching Carrie and I was in the room.
Oh my
And-
goodness.
But they didn't know I was in the room, so I was just like behind the couch, I think. Like, I don't know, I snuck in. And like I just started screaming. Like every time something happened, I'd be like, ah! And they were like, what are you
We
doing?
got found out.
But I feel like that's like also younger sibling rite of passage. Your older sibling does something that freaks you out, and then you just live with it.
Yeah, or you watch something that you're not supposed to watch, and it happens. I had babysitters that were teenagers, or like, yeah, and they were watching Ways to Exhale. I remember my mother laying into me because I watched it. Like, it wasn't my TV, it wasn't my movie. They're watching me,
I'm the
but you're
child.
mad at me. Right, I'm the child. I'm the one being watched, but I'm the one who gets in trouble. So
Yeah,
it happens.
that's it. I have a younger sibling who's like much younger than me, and like she also would like say stuff that would get me in trouble. So I remember watching, what was it, like Les Mis, like the remake, and I was like, okay, you have to leave the room now because
Yeah.
I'm watching, it's adult TV time. And of course I told her to leave. She's like in the corner, like looking around the door, like watching it. And then she started like quoting the songs at me just to let me know that she had watched it and she had seen the movie.
I know.
What did you think of the family dynamic as a whole? Shout out to Shay with the Hobbies and Britt Reiterly, because I think this was a recent conversation they had. But they were talking about sort of like the lack of families, specifically Black families, and like YA, how it's kind of like a plot thing. Like we have to get this main character, the younger character, isolated. So like often there's like a strained family dynamic where the parents aren't really present.
Mhm.
And I didn't really feel like that was the case here. I felt like the family was like very involved in Iris's life. And I was wondering what you all thought of like her relationship with her parents, how that fuels the story.
I like how she felt really close to her parents. They had like these bonds with each other. And I also like the neighborly aspect, the community aspect, like her and Daniel's mother and grandmother being really close to them, and how they come for Sunday breakfast all the time, and they go to church together, and they have their like section in the pews and whatnot. I like that dynamic. I find comfort when I read that in books, because like you said, most times when the main character is a young person, they're very isolated. They have no one, so they turn to like some supernatural story source or some kind of dark feature, and then they have to work their way through it. But I did enjoy that family aspect.
I concur.
I like that they had their family rituals. I thought that was really great. It also made it more obvious when, she was being sort of like bothered by the ghosts and stuff. Like she had options as to who she spoke to, and when she was keeping it a secret, it was really clear because she otherwise would have shared things with her mom or would have shared things with her family members. So she was isolated for a little bit, but only because she was keeping this like secret and was struggling. But she had options and support. So I liked that. I did notice, and this is just more on the community piece, like as a non-Christian reading this, it was very apparent to me that there was like religion, right? Like at one point, like there's reference to what the pastor said in a sermon. And so it was just very clear that there is like a heavy Christian religious, like deliberate Christian religious element to the story. And I noticed that. And perhaps for Christian children or in Christian families, like, it's good to have science fiction that, so clearly points to having like a church community. But I will say that I did notice that it was a good source of strength and support for her and ritual. it was also a deliberate choice on the part of the writer to make sure that we were all clear as readers that was there. So that was noted.
Anything else people want to add?
I agree. I like the family. I like the family dynamics. I also found it very interesting the fact that there was some form of layer of separation between, like Njeri said, the Christianity, because the generation before her parents' generation, that is Sugar's generation, believed in a lot of superstitions, right? And Sugar's commentary made sure that she said so, you know. There were little things she was telling Iris, oh, do not look over your left, like do not look over your left shoulder at night. Like the devil, if you look to the right, it will be an angel. And you saw Iris like consciously in that scene. Even no matter how scared she was, she kept looking to her right, even when she saw you know, certain this is spoilers, like yes. Even when she saw the ghost, she was like, "Oh, it was still over her right shoulder." So
But I can
really
imagine
like
her,
because,
this kid.
Yeah.
No. Sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Sorry, my internet is lagging, so.
It's okay.
Oh, okay. So I was saying that I'm not African American, but I do know that there was it's kind of similar here in Nigeria as well. There is this fusion of superstitions with Christianity, which is prevalent in our society, right? So you have the generations after, like our grandparents and our great grandparents having more of this connection with all those superstitions and local stories, and then our parents are trying to be all like, oh no, ghosts do not exist, you just pray. My mom, my grandma, on the other hand, is like, when you're sleeping, do not sleep with your feet on the wall, because she legit believes that if you sleep with your feet on the wall, you're going to a witch's meeting. So every time she spent the night at her house and she caught me with my feet on the wall, she slaps it down and she's like, nah, you're not going to go meet any witches coven. You put your feet straight on the bed. So like, just seeing Sugar's interaction and conversation, I love that, because I was like, yeah, that totally fits for me as well.
Yeah. I'm not in like every Black Christian community, but I find that especially for like Black Christians, like that kind of spirituality and Christianity don't tend to have like opposites. Like people tend to believe in both. Like my family is Catholic, but we're Haitian, and like my parents don't specifically practice like Haitian voodoo, but they do have some practices from it. And for my parents, they wouldn't call it that, but they have like some practices that are clearly not from Catholicism that they still do. They still tell me to do. There's like various things that like my dad does to our house and stuff that are not from like Catholicism, but like from cultural awareness, spirituality. So I feel like it's not as big of a deal within Black communities.
Yeah, I hadn't really been paying attention to that aspect, but now that you mention it, it's something I probably should have noted. Sugar is Daniel's grandmom, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What did you think of the relationship between the families, and also like Iris and Daniel's friendship? Because I feel like that kind of got tested over the course of the story.
I really liked it. First of all, I liked seeing just like a guy and a girl best friend that was not like, oh, now we have to kiss, because you don't always have to do that. And I loved how close their families are. I feel like, I don't know, I just really liked seeing the like neighborly aspect, like was mentioned before. And I liked seeing like, like Iris's mom was like, oh, I have to go talk to Daniel's mom about this. Like I just like seeing that. I don't know.
It was cute. They went over and had like breakfast together too, right? Like I thought they did pancakes. Like
yeah, they had breakfast, and then at the end they had like was it Christmas dinner or?
Yeah, Christmas, because it was during winter break. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. it was during winter break and they were watching the news. So that was actually really cool.
Hmm. And I like that. I like that a
They
lot.
just
I thought it was Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You can go. I was gonna say they just extended their own family like that.
Right. It's like that whole it takes a village. Um, just because
Yeah.
Daniel had lost his father, it was he didn't lack for a male figure in his life because of Iris's father was there. He was able to help him out, even though Daniel's father did give him some tidbits of life things before he had passed on. He still wasn't for a lack of a male figure in his life, especially at the young age of 11. So I thought it was I love that dynamic.
What did you think of like Daniel as a character? Like, are you more of a Daniel in the friendship, or are you more of the Iris? Daniel's the one who's like very much following what like the adults are saying. Like Sugar's like, you don't go out in the snow, you don't do this, that, and the third. And he's like, yes, we will not be doing these things. And Iris is kind of like, we could sneak out. No one has to know. I think she gets a little frustrated with him towards the end. Like she feels like he's not really supporting her, and they kind of have an argument about it.
Yeah, she definitely hit him with a low blow, and I was like shocked. I was like, how dare she say that to him? Like, that's supposed to be your friend. And I understand why best friends, they can tell you those hard truths that maybe nobody else in your life was going to tell you. But at the same time, it was like, ouch. Like, we're supposed to be friends. And he could tell that he was absolutely crushed, and that he's still kind of getting over the loss of his father. So, and then his friends that were on his basketball team or that he had basketball with, that he would play with.
Yeah.
He felt some kind of way about them, and her using what their conversations before and throwing it back in his face. You could tell that he was really hurt by that.
Yeah. I liked how his relationship with Iris kind of served as a foil for Sugar's relationship with her best friend, especially because like the fight happened, both of them during winter time. There was that separation, and Iris and Daniel were able to have this reconciliation whereby he steps out in the middle of a storm, a similar storm that Sugar experienced when she was a kid, and he went after his best friend. And I think that I liked how it came around and how it was still these two best friends helped to heal her relationship with her best friend. I liked the layers towards it, because who else would help two best friends reconnect than two other best friends? I keep saying best friends, but two other best friends who understand it and who have had those experiences and who can come from that to help these two reconcile, even though one of them is dead or was gone. So I really did like that part.
I like how full circle everything felt at the end.
Yeah.
Felt like very like it's healed, or we've started.
There's a lot of mirroring of Daniel's relationship with Irene. What's her name again?
Iris.
Sorry, I'm gonna forget her name. Yeah, and I also felt like the relationship was really developed, right? Like it was. I think it was a little mature for the age that they would have actually been, but I thought that worked. And I remember feeling super sad when they fought because I believed it, and they were so tight. I don't think there were enough examples, as Lucy said, of girls and boys being friends and standing up for each other. He did get on my nerves a little bit, though.
Just like a smidget.
Just a little bit.
Just like a smidget. Just a little bit. I'm all about following the rules. I get that. But sometimes, if your friend wants to jump off this bridge, just gotta apologize later.
Pull out your iPhone.
I kept forgiving him. I forgave him for that, because I don't know. I was just like, he's probably thinking that any form of rule breaking might lead to a loss. And
Yeah.
But I think that as kids, when you lose a parent that young, you start associating everything to the loss of the parents. And somewhere at the back of his mind, it's probably thinking, oh, do not do anything dangerous. Your family can't afford to lose you. You can't afford to lose your family and everything else. But I still wanted to go into that book and check him and be like, be there for your friend. She's not lying. There really is a ghost. She's not sleepwalking. There is a ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember feeling that way for sure.
But how was
Like
he
if
to
I woke
know?
up every day, but why would she
You believe
lie?
her. Exactly.
Thank you.
But why would she
Why would she
lie?
I don't think that he thought she was lying. Like, I think he thought that she believed it was a ghost, but he also thinks ghosts aren't real. So he's like, oh, the dreams must feel really real.
Yeah. I know at like the end he had talked
Remember at the
about.
start of the story, when we first got his POV, when we first got his point of view, he was like, oh, he knows sometimes that Vashti sees things in like corners and she's talking, and sometimes he knows that Sugar is talking to his dad and he gets some comfort. So he has an idea of the spirituality of things on the other side. I guess that was the reason why I'm like, it's just one more step. You already believe that these people in your life who are spiritually attuned to these other things are obviously communing with figures that are not there. Like, so why can you not believe your best friend? Like, that is just it. But then again, she did not believe her sister either, so there is that.
I don't know. We just don't want to believe, it's like a lot of trouble if there was a ghost. It's kind of easy to be like, it's a sleepwalking thing. Let's not talk about it. Let's just ignore it for a little bit.
I do
also
find
feel like
it hard when girl characters in particular are not believed around things that they see and encounter. So that was like, even when parents were like, oh, nah, this is something else. I know you're saying this, but you're probably wrong. Just, drink some hot milk and go back to bed. Like that. I don't love that. And that happened for the first little bit. And I wasn't happy with it. And I didn't like that Daniel kind of perpetuated that as well.
You try to like rationalize.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. And then I feel like Daniel was like almost semi-jealous because if they can see all these ghosts, where is my dad? If they can speak to all these people, where is my father? Like that. And I think that's where he was kind of like, well, I don't want to believe her because why wouldn't he want to reach out to me? Right.
That's fair.
So I think we've talked a lot about like the ordinary part of the world, but we haven't talked a whole lot about the ghosts. What did people think of the ghosts and like the super, like this paranormal parts of the world and like the spooky omens? Like I haven't read a whole lot of books where it's like snow is like the omen that something's gonna go on. But also it makes a lot of sense. Like I would hate to get lost in a snowstorm. Like I feel like it's also really easy to like see things in the snow because it's almost like being in the dark where it's just like you can just kind of project whatever you want onto it. So what did people think of like the ghosts and like all the stuff where they're like playing in the snow at night?
So I don't know where y'all like. I know Noria hasn't had a lot of snow experience.
None
ever.
ever.
Right. So, but I mean, I'm Canadian, and so snow is a part of like my life and has always been. And I don't know if where all y'all live that you get a lot of snow, but you do,
used
yeah.
to.
Used to?
Yeah.
So,
I'm on the East Coast. Yeah, I get a lot.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So then that feeling, like the first snowfall where the snow is thick and fluffy and it dampens the sound.
Yes, it does.
There is something, and this is actually the first book, because I remember when I read this, I was like, I don't think I've ever read another ghost wintry, like so wintry ghost story. But there is something eerie about being in a dark cemetery where things are covered with snow, and of course white being associated with the spirit realm in some cosmologies. So I really, really, really love that, because I remember as a kid walking down sidewalks, because it gets dark so early where I live in the winter time. It was like 5 o'clock, 5:50, right? And it's pitch black outside
It's
except
getting
for
that way right now.
lampposts and thick sheets of snow.
Mm-hmm.
So I just absolutely loved the winteriness of it. I loved the ghost energy and the
Mm-hmm.
spectral nature of things. I love the icy ghost touch, and like the frosty breath. Like I just loved all of that, and I thought it was really really well developed and really well done. And then when I remember when I was reading, I was like, how come there aren't more wintry, snowy ghost stories? Because like that landscape really lends itself really well to like shadows and
Mm-hmm.
ghosts.
I thought she did very well about making snow creepy. Because, like you said, Chloe,
Yeah,
I have not read many books about ghosts during the wintertime and
yeah,
using snow as like such a real element. I'm almost another character. And it made me freak out a little bit about snow. And now
yeah.
I'm not so sure if I want snow this year, to be honest with you. Because you get that first like crunch when you're walking on it. It's like, it's a good feel. It's a nice sound. But
It used to be.
right. Now I'm serious. I'm cautious about it. I'm a
So
little
India did her
cautious.
job.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would say definitely for sure. And then Sugar with her the snow spirits. She
Yeah.
had me looking about it. So after like the first night of reading this book, I was looking at it where it was in bed. And remember in the beginning, kind of Sugar was saying if you sleep on your back, you're like riding the witch's broom. I thought that was so I never heard anybody say anything about that before. I've never heard that association. When you said
Oh,
about your feet.
we have it here, but like that's the feet on the wall. There's
Right.
all sleep on your back. Like even till now, when my mom comes to visit and my ass is in my 30s, and if I'm sleeping on my back, she will tap me to sleep on my side. Because in Nigeria, it's believed that if you sleep on your back, you're waiting to be possessed by a spirit. That it's easy for the spirit to just fall back into you if you're sleeping facing up. So you sleep on your side, so it makes it difficult because then the spirit has to turn. And I remember when she was telling me as a kid, and I was like, but shouldn't the spirit be able to easily turn either way? But it was what she was like, nah. I'm just like, yo, I just want to sleep. Yo, I'm making it so hard.
And
I don't know. I think
I'm
I'm
like
with your
making myself
mom. Like, I feel like it
self-conscious
just makes
now.
sense. Sorry, you go.
No, you okay? Like
Like,
I'm
I don't know. Imagine
self-conscious
trying to
sleeping.
fall on your side, or I guess you have to like get on the bed and like kind of shuffle backwards into the bed.
Yeah.
I feel like
There's like a practical wisdom behind most superstitions. My mom
oh,
has one where if you shouldn't let somebody sew an article of clothing while you're wearing it unless they prick you first,
Oh.
because the only body that is sewn upon without first being pricked is a cadaver, like a dead body. So
Ooh.
if you want to live, you shouldn't allow somebody to sew something on you. So whenever she like would like adjust a dress or something that I was wearing, she would always like distract me and then prick me and then start
Wow.
sewing.
Okay.
Wow.
Reminder
Yeah,
to
not
Wow.
that
self.
it connects to
Thank
the
you.
book or Black SFFathon or anything, but fun story about superstitions and mothers.
It's good. It's good to know.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
probably have that somewhere at the back of my mind. I'm like, prick me
Yep.
first, please. Thank you.
Yes.
or just don't
That's gonna
sew
be
it
a
while it's
thing.
on me. I think it would be me.
Or use a mannequin. Say bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the snow is not like part of course, like Jerry said, I've never experienced it. I've experienced a hailstorm, hurt like a motherfucker because
Mhm.
I was outside and that shit was hitting, but never snow. Um, but I also think that there was this underlying thread of being lost, of
Mhm.
getting lost, especially from the perspective, of the kids that I related with so hard. Like even now, that if there's anything I'm terrified of is being lost. Like I need to
Mhm.
know where I'm going. I need to be able to get directions. That's why if I'm going to somewhere new, I always make sure that my battery is fully charged because I have this deep, intense fear of just getting lost and
Mhm.
just not making it back home. And I think
Mhm.
that all these characters, like whether it is physically or metaphorically, they want to get home. They want to be home. And that whole theme of what if you lose your way? What if you never make it home that runs through, I think for me is just as horrific as, the winter setting and the winter ghost story, because that is also something physical that we all experience even outside the supernatural. So I, I,
Mhm.
I like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Getting
people have
lost is really
anything else to
scary.
say about snow? Okay.
What?
I was asking if anyone had anything else to say about snow because something you said kind of like segued into a question I
Oh,
had. Okay. Lucy, do you have anything to say about the snow in the story? I know you had to leave for a little bit.
No, I think what was said was good.
Okay. So I think there's something you said, Dory, about this fear of being lost. And I was wondering how you felt like that tied in with the ghost. Because I think Iris really relates. I'm sorry, I forget the ghost's name because I know that they find a name for her.
exactly. I forgot her name as
Avery.
well.
Rue.
Avery.
Oh,
Thank you.
Avery, sorry.
Because I kept saying Anna May, but I was like, no, that's Sugar's name. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So Avery
There
is
are
the
lots of
ghost?
A's.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Like I think Iris really relates to Avery because Avery has been like forgotten in death. She's in this graveyard that people don't really know about or visit. And no one talks about like these historic big things that she's done in the community. And like Iris feels like that's kind of happening to her in real time. Like there's kind of like this smaller things like with her family, but there's also like her being like this big like innovator and club leader and like very involved in school. And like the other students, I think it was particularly like one like white girl who was like cutting her out of stuff,
mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
very influential in the community.
Mhm.
Heather, such a Heather.
Heather, I could. What did you
It is such a Heather, for real.
Heather, we could say a lot of things about Heather. I didn't know why she was sad about not getting invited to that sleepover because I was like, I feel like you narrowly missed something terrible.
For real.
Um, but like, what did you think? I guess of the connections between them and also between like how Avery is kind of was probably like a very normal, very sweet person in life has become like this like more malevolent person in death. Like, is that something you find believable in stories? Um, like this idea that like ghosts can like just kind of lose their way over time because they've been stuck in this realm for so long. I guess what did you think of all of that?
I loved that aspect of it, and I found it very believable because I think like if you have trauma and then you layer on top of that, like Avery had to deal with white supremacy. So um and I mean so did uh Iris.
Yep.
Iris? Yes.
Um and so like over time that stuff morphs, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
affects your personality, it affects the filters through which you see the world, it affects your belief systems, your behavior and so on. So why wouldn't that happen in another realm over decades, centuries, but decades in this case. So I think that was like one thing, but there was something interesting about like if Heather and her family and her friends are allowed to perpetuate the racism that they did and to continue with the erasure of Black students and the contributions of Black students, when those Black students grow up, get old, end up dying, if they end up being ghosts, they're going to have a very similar memory, right? Like I felt like this story allowed for there to be some healing and some resolution, but it also was a really good commentary on how we can be haunted by our trauma and um, how we can be visited by the harms that we've experienced transgenerationally, and that we're given opportunities to correct them, even if it's not in a very strict one-to-one ratio. And um, I think that was a very powerful lesson. I also thought that India delivered that without being preachy about it or heavy-handed or too saccharine in that way. So I thought that was really well done. That theme.
I think Sugar's character really possesses everything that you were speaking about in Jerry, like how her trauma as a youth, losing her best friend, morphed into this fear of snow, and then her passing that down to her grandchild of don't
Yeah.
go outside. I don't go outside in fresh snow. I'm not going outside. Don't you go outside in fresh snow. Don't go outside in the dark. Don't touch the snow. It just, her loss of her friend to these snow spirits morphed into this whole thing, and it just took over her life almost every
Yeah.
winter. And
Mm-hmm.
it took the closure of finding her friend and putting her to rest for her to find some healing in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
I agree too.
I had a theory while I was reading the book that turned out to be incorrect, but just since we're like talking about the snow and everything, when Sugar was like, "Oh, my friend or Avery was killed by the children of the snow,"
Mm.
I thought she was talking about the KKK.
Oh yeah.
So did I.
Yeah,
So
I
did
did
I.
too.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
And
So I
even when
thought,
she was saying that, oh, there was a big snowstorm and she did not make it
yeah,
home, I still thought she was nabbed. Like, I didn't
yeah,
think she lost her way. I actually thought she was nabbed by the KKK as well. And then eventually the story continued. I'm like, oh, she really did lose her way.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just wanted to share that. I feel like that would have been a really interesting commentary, especially with the snow, because all the white and everything.
Right. Exactly. That's how I thought too. Yep. It wasn't far fetched because I made that same connection.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, maybe it's like wishful thinking on my end, but like whenever the ghosts are like vengeful and they're just like normal people in their everyday lives, I'm like, but why? Why couldn't you just like pop in, like give advice or like have a chat? Like, why do you have to be angry at me? Why are you like turning my little sister against me?
well, I think a common thing for like these stories also is that the ghost is like missing something.
Mm-hmm.
Like people don't. Like most people when they die, like I think even in this book, because that when they talk about Daniel's father, they're like, oh, when most people die, they die and like
Pass
go
on.
on to do something else. Like they don't need to be here unless something has happened. So like even just having whatever happened would already like probably predispose them to have to end up in a negative way.
Yeah.
And I think it's also connected to how they died.
Mm-hmm.
They died young, terrified, locked, alone. Like Jerry said, she'd already had this experience of living in a segregated society, and Sugar did say that these children were dealing with hate, like this amount of vitriol, and because you can just imagine all of the things that she's been dealing with. I personally think that and this is me just going creatively and all of that, because this is Iris and Daniel's story and Avery to an extent, but we never got her point of view. I won't be surprised if Avery is the type of spirit, the type of ghost that for the longest time did not know that she was dead. Like she just spent all that time wandering asking herself why nobody's looking for her and nobody's come to find her. And I think that is what was driving her, as well as trying to say, oh no, if I kill Iris and they find her body, they will find mine as well. I think for the longest time. So I personally think that it's the way she died as well, and all that emotions that she was feeling when she died that led to her becoming a vengeful ghost, if you will, compared to Daniel's father, who died knowing that his family loved him and was able to pass on in that light.
Mm-hmm. And Daniel's father does show up briefly at the end, right? I thought that
to lead him, to lead them out of.
But it's like more of a metaphorical thing, I think, isn't it? Like a bright light or like a spot of sun or something.
Yeah, it's like a brighter, like a ball of light that gives him the
I was
feelings
I
of
was
everything that he
sad.
got from his father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did y'all feel when you discovered that Avery was like not all good? Like when there were like the first inklings of this sort of like sinister plan.
Oof.
Those freaked me out.
The,
Like
mi-
that freaked me out.
the minute her voice dropped, the minute Iris was like, her voice dropped deep, I was like, bitch, I have to the fuck now. Run, girl.
Thank you.
This ghost is not your friend.
When she
That would
was
be
describing
great in a
her
movie.
eyes,
Sorry?
Yeah.
I think when she was describing her eyes, like she didn't have normal eyes. She was just like these like darkness, these pits of blackness.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that would freak me out. There's no way you're a good ghost with eyes like that. Casper had regular eyes. What happened to you? You know, like
Not Casper.
I mean, I'm the friendly ghost because his eyes were normal. So you have these black eyes that, to me, that means bad. So it's just the moment I saw her eyes, like, all right, cool. Well, she's not friendly. It's gonna take you a minute to realize that.
I was like, maybe they removed her eyes or something happened and her eyes were damaged. The minute her voice dropped, I was like, nah. Good ghosts talk in regular people voices. They don't change decibels and start being all, "I be my friend." I'm like,
Yeah.
nah, this ghost, run away. Run
She even said
away.
herself that the voice of the ghost like had dropped like octaves as deep as her father's, and I'm like, this is a
Deeper
little
than her
girl.
father's.
No.
Yeah, no way.
Deeper than your
Run. Like now is when you run.
This is the time. But
I mean, to be honest, I feel like Iris was like always ready for something to happen. I didn't understand like the whole even the beginning of the book when they go outside at night to play in the snow. I'm like, why would you? I mean, I guess I grew up in a house like I couldn't have snuck out if I ever wanted to, but to sneak out of the house to play in this, like you could just go in the morning. Like I was kind of on Daniel's side. I was like, the snow will be better in the morning because it'll have more time to fall. The sun will be out so you can see. What? Like I don't understand.
It's not running anywhere. The snow is not running anywhere. What the hell?
and they had that signal where they flashed the light into the trees a couple of times. I thought I was like, man, they're doing a lot to sneak out with some snow.
Yeah.
That is a lot. That's a lot.
I'm like, you guys regularly sneak out? You're 11. Where are you going?
Where are you going? This is a really quiet neighborhood too. I noticed because I didn't hear. She didn't say anything. About, something about a dog.
Nobody
once.
else was in there.
Nobody was. There was no dogs. There was no other neighbors. Like, so nobody sees these two kids running across the street.
The only neighbor they had was the one with the Christmas lights. That was it. And I'm like,
that was it.
Joe. Yeah. That was the only neighbor they mentioned.
That's it.
Like,
I was like, okay, it's quiet.
How lonely is your street?
There's always eyes somewhere, but
Iris's eyes.
Yeah, exactly, or lack thereof, because that was freaky. It was.
I think my last question before we wrap up is, what did you think of like the whole resolution, like in this school, like, you know, Heather's proposal? What did Heather even want to do? She wants to clean up like the
basketball
court, like some.
She wanted to beautify the basketball court. Beautify and plant.
There was nothing wrong with it.
Flowers in concrete. I'm like, was anybody going to agree to that? Right. What the heck was that?
Heather's pointless plans defeated, and they go through with their plan. What do you think of like the final resolution? Because I felt like for me it was like Heather's down, but also like the bad thing. If Iris had maybe talked to Heather a little bit, I wouldn't have been too upset, honestly. Sorry, not Iris. Avery.
Yeah.
Usually
like a yeah.
They had that history presentation. She's like, "Oh yeah, I can bring in my grandpa's Confederate sword." I was like,
Okay.
Yeah,
I can bring in a
I
boat.
mean,
I'm like,
right.
what
being
are
in the
you
South,
doing?
I feel like that is more common than you would. I mean, I haven't seen anybody's grandfather's Confederate sword, but people just casually be like, "Oh yes, my parents fought in the Civil War. They've been here since the 1700s." So what you're telling me is, what side of the war were they on?
And you're gladly showing that in school. Like, okay, cool.
Like
No.
Oh, that's
with
scary
a,
to me.
with your black classmates, like right there. After you casually like did not invite one of them for a write-up, and you're like, it's not racism, I just forgot.
Not on you specifically, just you.
Just you. Just
Only
you
you.
every single time. The
Only-
casual racism in that school was just
Only
ridiculous to me.
"Yeah."
It really
I
was.
thought the sword thing was very believable, but also like
Yeah,
I
that's an
I wanted
Yeah.
like Heather to like stub her toe. I just wanted like something a little bad
something.
to happen to her on
For real.
page.
Avery should
The
just be
teacher
like,
was no help.
but Avery
None
would
at
be like, I
all.
have taste. I don't need you as my forever friend. I have taste, which was the only thing.
For real.
But Lord, that
Yeah.
girl. And then
Avery
had the
was
audacity
all
to
over
be like,
Heather.
is your dad running for political office? Like, girl, what the fuck?
Exactly. She was a mess. That whole school was trash. The principal was trash.
Yeah.
The teachers were trash. The other kids were trash. When she was saying that every time the girl was turning her head back and she was hitting Daniel in the face with her hair,
Oh,
that
Oh, I forgot about that.
I got like an instant flashback because that happened to me once, and anger like surged through me. I got so mad. Like if that was me, if I had did what I wanted to do originally, she would have had no hair at that point because I'd have been cut it off. But
Yeah.
it's like a thing that I've seen in school. So
Yeah.
it was
I
a whole
just
mess.
didn't. Well, I don't know. I feel like the thing at the beginning where Iris didn't get acknowledged as a team captain or whatever they were acknowledging.
Yeah.
I know how they forgot her, but I don't understand how they forgot her, because even her like that, like their club in the school has like a teacher advisor. Wouldn't their teacher have known about this to be like, or at least by the time the teacher got there, wouldn't they have realized my team is not here? Like anything, like
Something.
what?
that's assuming they care,
You-
right?
You
Yeah.
say this
Yeah,
like that
that's true.
teacher was paying any attention. You say it like that teacher was paying any attention. There's a very high possibility that teacher is just there to be like, I take my name, you all do whatever the fuck you're doing. I'm certain if you ask that teacher that, what is the step club about? It'd be like, they kind of dance.
Yeah.
That's going to be it.
Yeah.
Someone like that is going to be like, it's some sort of dance. Like, okay, so why do they exist when we have a dance club? I don't know.
Trash.
Absolutely.
In my head, was Avery's father like important? Like I thought Avery's family was supposed to be important in the community.
I don't
Avery?
think so.
Remember?
No?
Sorry, not Avery.
No.
Oh,
Heather.
Iris?
oh,
Heather.
Heather's. I
No?
don't think so either.
No,
Okay.
I
No.
don't think so either.
She was just a mediocre white girl who was very loud and very opinionated.
That's even
Thank
more
you.
annoying that no one even cares
I
about
was like
Heather
the-
like that. She's messing up people's lives like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the step team, I thought it was kind of like I thought it was just Iris all the way. Like I thought she was like begging people to like supervise, and she was kind of the one who's really like the heart and soul of it. And like I didn't get the impression that the teacher was super involved.
No.
I didn't think that
Yeah.
the teacher was super involved, but I feel like you still have to like report
do
to someone when like I'm not a teacher, but when you're running a club, like you still have to do something.
Supervise. You have to
Yeah.
authority.
Yeah.
You have to approve things, give advice, get budgets, like look over stuff. It's like an actual responsibility.
In my head, Iris is just doing all that and like handing the paperwork to the teacher.
Oh, I am 100%
Yeah.
Probably
convinced that she was.
is. But
She was making up the
and I'm
steps.
certain that the only time their teachers will take them seriously is in the following year. Because my Iris was like, oh, that they were going to go in for some competitions, etc., etc. That, like, I can just imagine it's all those teachers that are like, oh, you and your little club. Sure, I will do it for you and your little club. Like, I can just hear it, the little club and the tiny little snare. I can just hear it.
It was trash. But her teammates on the
trash.
step team were like really involved. They loved her like
Yeah.
leadership. They gave
Yeah.
her the praise that she wanted from everybody else. And like her mom had said, like
Yeah.
something of the sort, like it's not you don't have to get the recognition from everybody else. It's how you feel about it. And
Yeah.
as long as you're recognized by important people, then everything is okay.
Yeah.
Which is not real, like
Like,
not really always the case, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I found that to be a little dismissive, and so anyway.
No, I did too. I mean, again, this
very
is
businesses.
and from her mother's point of view. This is just it's middle school. It's a step thing. It's a club. It's a little club. It's a little thing, but at the same time, it meant a lot to Iris, and I felt like people should have appreciated that more for her. Like this was her thing. This was her passion. I think. While her mother was very on her side about a lot of things, she would step in for her when like the principal was acting a fool and things of that nature. But at the same time, she kind of like just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're not getting the recognition." Just like a little pat on the head about the whole thing. It's just middle school.
I
I
think that conversation. Okay, sorry, Lucy. You go first. I'll go after you.
Okay. I also don't think her mom felt like there was like a lot more she could do, because like she already talked to the principal, she talked to the teachers. It sounded like when she went to talk to the principal after the like ceremony thing, it sounded like it was a regular thing that she was doing. Like she was always in that principal's office being like, why did you do this to my daughter? What is going on in the school? So it seemed like she was just trying to comfort Iris with what she had, because she was already doing what she felt like she could do.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, but I think my own thing is, I personally think she should have created space for, let's examine what you're feeling, and it's very valid and very unfair.
Agreed.
Like, there's just something about, I know you're pissed, and this is something that should have you pissed. You put in the work. You're coming up with new steps. You're the captain. You deserve this recognition. And it's so sad that the school cannot see that. That's a whole different conversation from, oh, do not look for external validation. Look inwards. I know that. But can we just the hurt I'm feeling in this moment and be like, yeah, I totally, like, your feelings right now are very justified and very valid. And I think that is something that Iris wanted to hear, because even you could tell that she knew nothing was going to change with regards to school. She knew that they were always going to be dickheads. They were always going to ignore her. She just wanted the space where, oh yes, like, this is very unfair, and you feeling angry and ignored and forgotten is very valid. Which was why she was agreeing with Avery the Ghost when that one was like, you were forgotten too. Like, yeah, she should have heard that from her mother, not from the ghost.
That's fair.
I agree.
So
I didn't flip shit too. Just saying.
I didn't have any more questions for the book. Did anyone have any last thing they wanted to discuss before we wrap up?
Quick thing. So I know there's a second book coming out.
And
the mom at the very end of the book says something like, "Oh yeah, I think it comes out March of next year."
Oh yes, when her mom was like, "Oh, my own story." It's I was like,
I'm curious. I'm like, so she's got me. So I may have to go ahead and pick up the second book, because I wonder if it takes place from like the mom's point of view, like when she was a kid, or is it just another story? I didn't want to read too much of the synopsis to give anything away to spoil myself, but I'm curious now.
Do we remember the mom's name?
No.
Rose.
Iris's mom?
No, they didn't give the parents' name. It was kind of like very cow and chicken. He was like Mrs. Rose and Mr. Rose.
Okay.
Oh
Just like
yes,
the
yes,
they
yes.
didn't
That's
give
true.
them names.
Got
It was only that she had a name.
Yeah, only Sugar had a name. Yep.
She had two names actually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Wait, I want to see the second book.
So I don't know if it's related, but the next book that India Hill Brown is coming out is called Girl in the Lake. So it's another middle grade. And
The
they're doing
cover
the
looks the
thing.
same.
Yeah, it's
I mean, not the
I
same.
think it is related.
It's
similar.
related.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I would hope so.
Because it has a very, maybe not like exactly the same premise, but it is something a little bit similar where it's like this
I don't know.
girl goes like on a vacation with like her family to this lake house, and then she starts seeing this like apparition like appearing in the mirror.
But the synopsis doesn't say it's related. It just says by the same author.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll definitely be reading it, but I don't know exactly if there's a connection yet. It'd be interesting if there was.
I
But are
guess
we
I
looking
was
at the
hoping.
synopsis?
Sorry, what was that, Nori? Did you ask me to read it out?
Yes, please, because I want to know. And my internet is acting weird. It's like cannot give visual and audio and also Google at the same time. It's weird.
Okay. So the synopsis reads, Celeste knows she should be excited to spend 2 weeks at her grandparents' lake house with her brother Owen and their cousins Capri and Daisy, but she's not. Bugs, bad cell reception, and the dark waters of the lake? No thanks. On top of that, she just failed her swim test and hates being in the water. It's terrifying. But her grandparents are strong believers in their family knowing how to swim, especially having grown up during a time of segregation at public pools. And soon, strange things start happening. The sound of footsteps overheard late at night, a flickering light in the attic window, and Celeste's cousins start accusing her of pranking them when she's been nowhere near them. Things at the old house only get spookier until one evening when Celeste looks in the steamy mirror after a shower and sees her face, but twisted, different. Who is the girl in the mirror and what does she want? Past and present mingle in this spine-tingling ghost story by author India Hill Brown.
It seems like similar themes, but not necessarily like.
Yeah, it's
related.
not connected.
If she's doing like normal historical fantasy, middle grade, if that's her niche or that's what she's trying to create space for, I think I'm all for it.
Yeah,
it sounds good. I'm all for a twisted face in the mirror.
Scary.
And I'm definitely going to be listening to it on audio as well, because I think the audio production for The Forgotten Girl was so good.
It was.
Yeah,
Who got the
I
audio
agree.
So everyone, I guess, except for me. So I keep saying I'm going to try and read an audiobook, but it's just so hard for me to sit down and focus. Like, it'll be 5 minutes. I'll be like, wait, what just happened? And I have to like go back and listen back.
Hybrid read it.
Oh.
I'm all about the audiobooks. My library had it and the book at the same time. I was like, heck yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
It's so pretty.
It
But
is.
who do we
do
like?
it.
Do we? Is that Avery? That's Avery, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, I was like, yo, is it going to be Iris? But then I was reading it and I'm like, that's Avery also, because Iris always has on braids with beads on them. And the person on the cover is not like in braids, in beaded braids. So I was like, nah, that's Avery.
Yeah.
She looks so young.
That's the
Poor
saddest part
Avery.
about it.
Yeah. That part when she told like her classmates, I was like, she was 11 when she died, and yeah, dude, it's gas because it was just sad. A young girl. Did anybody think for a moment? Because I was like, I had a moment where I was like, but why did you expect anything more, Noria? Right? The scene when, of course, after Daniel realized that Avery had grabbed Iris and they were going swimming, and he was outside and the cops pulled up. For the first time, I was like, yo, would this adult actually be an adult? Be a sheriff? A law enforcement adult?
No.
And help this child? And then the child was like, oh, maybe I should tell him. And then he goes, I hear there's been trespassers. Is it you? And I'm like, You're just useless. Go away. Go away. Why?
I appreciated that realness though.
Right. It's like, okay, well, yep, you're not going to listen to me. What's the point of even talking to you?
Because in those
Move
old
along.
movies, you know, you always wanted to, well, not always, but I remember watching movies back in the decade, and you always wanted there to be a police officer on that lone street who's going to show up at the right time. But Jordan Peele reminded us that they don't usually come, and when they do,
Nope.
it's not like they help.
They are not to be trusted.
So,
They are
yeah.
not to be trusted. They are not going to help. So it's a pity that he had to learn that very early, but he's learned it. So
yeah.
I don't have anything else to add. Did anyone have any last comments before we wrap up? Or anything Black SFFathon related to promote?
I have a little announcement
Okay.
of everybody. And we just want to share, because even I'm certain that there is nobody that is currently watching this live show that has participated in the Black SFFathon that has not realized just how amazing Chloe is. Chloe, thank you for once again coming up with this brilliant readathon. Thank you for constantly introducing us to amazing books. Thank you for your mind, your creativity. Thank you for all that you do. And as a big thank you, all of us would like to contribute a little something to help you shop on Sister Sci-Fi, because we want you to get all the amazing Black SFF books out there. So thank you, Chloe, and thank you for choosing us to be your co-host. We love you. This is K-pop Hearts.
Yay.
All right. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't. I said Black SFFathon related, and I was like, wait, it's over. There's nothing to promote. But I meant like if you're doing something on your channels, like all the reviews are written with Purpose 1.5.
Yeah, we know, but this is still related to Black SFFathon because it concerns you and reading Black SFF books. So we are still right. We are still right.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, everybody, so much. Yeah, I need to. The money will get spent. We all know the money will get spent. It's just a question of thank you to my wonderful co-host for coming out today and the kind words. Thank you to everyone in the chats for joining us and talking with us about this book, and everyone who's been participating in SFFathon on Twitter and on the IG. I've loved seeing everyone's pictures. The answers to people's questions on the Twitter have been really great this year. It's been a lot of fun to participate with everybody, and it was another great year, and just happy I got to share it all with you, everyone. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Ending.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.